Well, good morning, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome into a very exciting Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants broadcast. My name is Jesse, and if you're joining us for the first time, as so many of you are today, we are all about bringing conservation, adventure, and science into classrooms around the world, and everything we do goes to our YouTube channel. So if you want to check out this program in 3 weeks or 3 years, or like 4,000 other broadcasts of the coolest scientists and explorers on planet Earth, you can head there and do just that. Today really epitomizes what we're about as an organization. It's been personally one of my very favorite days in a long time. We started off the day in Florida talking about Disney's conservation work on butterflies. An hour ago, we hung out with Wendy Bowen in California talking about their amazing work with earthquake geology. And we are wrapping up with the NSF-DOE Rubin Observatory. This is one of the most iconic facilities in the world for helping us understand the cosmos. It's a story I've been wanting to tell for years since I first heard of its development, and this is our first ever broadcast getting to feature it with Education Outreach Lead Alan Strauss. So without further ado, I'm going to zip my lip as we've got a lot to cover today. I'm so excited to have Alan here joining us to dive in on the amazing work they're doing with the Rubin Observatory. And so take us away, Alan. Thank you so much for joining us and welcome to the show.
Thanks. It's a pleasure to be here. And I love your enthusiastic introduction because I'm usually the most enthusiastic person in the room and my match. So
I'm trying to give you a run for your money. I've got to say to our kids, before we even go formally in, like when I've had a chance to chat with Alan in advance of this, there are very few people I've ever run across who so clearly love what they do as you. So I'm really looking forward to this personally as well.
Yeah. So the first thing I was going to say, obviously my name is Alan, and that, no matter who I'm speaking with, astronomers or my family, I always remind people that I am an amateur astronomer by training, and that's my background in this. And so, if you don't remember anything, the takeaway today is simply that, if you see an open window, take the opportunity, step through it, and you never know where life will lead. I have a background in education. I got my PhD in education and worked for a long time in equity at a university, but the amateur astronomy path opened this window, and here I am. So if you want to know more, you can certainly reach out to me, but I want to talk mostly about Rubin because we don't have enough time for all the exciting things I could tell you. So you can see a picture of the observatory in Chile there, a long exposure of star trails in the night sky, beautiful colors. And what I want to talk to you about today is really how we're going to bring the night sky to life. And that the Vera Rubin Observatory is already revolutionizing the way that we explore the cosmos, the universe around us. There we go. So before we go too far, I want to mention Vera Rubin. It's very important to everyone at the observatory that we honor who she was. She was a cosmic trailblazer, and she was an astronomer, born in 1928, lived a very long life and passed away in 2016. And she provided the first convincing evidence for what we refer to as dark matter. She was also an incredible advocate for women in astronomy. And Rubin Observatory is the first major US observatory that is named for a woman. So we really try to remember that. And just like she was a groundbreaking astronomer, she was a strong advocate for women in astronomy. It's very important to the work that we do that we bring as many people as possible in around the world. We also try to avoid using acronyms for our name. I know that at least in the United States, NASA, places like that, every observatory has an acronym. So we prefer to use the name Vera Rubin just to honor who she was and what she did. So where is Vera Rubin Observatory? I'm glad you asked. So we're in the southern hemisphere in Chile, and you can see the map there. Chile is a very long country situated between Peru to the north and the South Pole, I like to say. And you can see that to the east of Chile, there's a number of countries from Bolivia down to Argentina. And the capital, Santiago, is pinned there. And if we zoom in a little bit, north central Chile, you see the red pin on the upper left. That's a town called La Serena. That's where our base offices are. And then there's two pins that you see a little bit down to the right, high up in the Andes Mountains. And this is Cerro Pachon. So Cerro is mountain in Spanish. Pachon is the name of the mountain. And you can see there's a number of observatories. On the upper right is SOAR. In the middle, which is not named, is the International Gemini South Observatory. And then Vera Rubin is the observatory to the left in the image. And if we come in just a little more, you can see that This was towards the end of the construction period, so we still have a lot of shipping containers and things around. And the small observatory dome you see to the right is our auxiliary telescope. So that operates in concert with Rubin every night, characterizing the atmosphere and taking pictures of the sky. Okay, so as we mentioned, we sit on Cerro Pachon, and I said the SOAR telescope was at the end of the ridge in that last picture. That stands for the Southern Astrophysical Research Telescope. And then you can see up high is the Gemini South telescope. That we call that Gemini South because it's one of two telescopes. Gemini North is in Hawaii, and those telescopes operate together, covering the northern and the southern hemisphere. And then again, there's our little auxiliary telescope. These are our immediate neighbors. Of course, we have some more fun neighbors in my mind. And so here's some other guys that are up on the summit. On the left, you can see a viscacha. I had never heard of a viscacha until I went to work for Rubin. It looks like a rabbit, but it's not. It's much closer, in fact, to a squirrel. It's a rodent. That particular image, its tail is not up, but it has a very long, curvy tail. Very, very cute. They're very elusive up on the mountaintop. And then to the right, you can see a fox, also very elusive and just beautiful, beautiful neighbors up there. And they do serve as reminders to us of where we are. We're in a very special and unique place on Earth. And we try to be good neighbors, not just in astronomical senses, but also with the environment around us. Okay, so if I talk too fast, just jump in and tell me, okay? So capturing the cosmos, what are we going to do? We are going to complete what is called the Legacy Survey of Space and Time. So we're going to go on Sky very soon. We're already on Sky now, taking pictures, getting everything ready. And we're going to scan for 10 years nonstop using the largest digital camera in the world. And what this will do is it'll create a high definition time lapse of the entire night sky. And we love to call it the greatest cosmic movie ever made. So imagine the telescope for 10 years, just taking pictures of the night sky over and over and over again. This has never been done before. So we have some really unique technology to enable this. And you can see an animation on the right gives you an idea of what we do, right? We just scan the sky over and over and over again. And there's three things that really matter in doing a survey like this. One is to have a very wide field of view. We want to see as much sky as we can in every single picture. And so you can see the team of scientists there that built the camera at Stanford University in California. It is the largest digital camera that's ever been built. It's in the Guinness Book of World Records. You can look it up if you don't believe me. And every image from the camera, every single image is 3.2 billion pixels. Okay, it's a very fast telescope. So it has a 3-mirror design, which is unusual. And it's fast not only in an optical sense. So the light moves very quickly through the system, but it is also fast mechanically. It can move very quickly from one spot on the sky to the next. And it also can see very faint objects. And that's a combination of both the large mirror, it's 8.4 meters in diameter, as well as having an extremely sensitive camera that's the largest ever built. And again, all this adds up to the greatest astronomical movie of all time. I wish I could show it to you, but you got to give us about 10 years. Okay, how fast is it? So it's really fast, if anyone asks you. To survey the sky in about every 3 nights. So I should have mentioned that on this slide. We will cover the entire sky in about 3 nights through 6 different filters. So if we were just doing it through one filter, that's about a half a night. We'll have imaged the entire sky. And the telescope weighs 350 tons. So it has to move from one spot to the next and be ready for the next image in 5 seconds. Now that 5 seconds seems like a lot of time, right? For you to hold your camera and move. But remember, 350 tons, it's got to go, and it can't be vibrating, or the stars will be shaking. So this is just a little video from during construction. You can see in the back of the telescope, there's no mirror yet. When this was taken, it was just an engineering test of the mount. That yellow cross that you saw is what we call a mirror surrogate. So it's just the physical mass of the mirror so that things are balanced. So as this moves, it's moving about 60% or so of the actual maximum speed of the telescope. So it gives you an idea how fast it can move. This is already much faster than any other large telescope would move. Okay, so we mentioned it's going to bring the night sky to life. Well, Alan, what do you mean by that? What I mean is it's going to be a discovery machine. So we're going to be surveying the sky relentlessly every single night. And after an initial set of observations, we're going to have what we call a template. We're going to have a map of the sky. We're going to have seen the whole thing. And at that point, we're going to be detecting changes. So things that were there that were not there before, or something that's flashing, or moving, or pulsating, or changing in brightness. So we call these events transients. And those could be asteroids and comets, pulsating stars, supernova explosions. So supernova are very, very massive stars that die very violent deaths, if you will. Previously unknown stars and galaxies. And my favorite is that last bullet, or the completely new things, right? The questions we don't even know to ask yet. So we're going to have 10 years of data. And that is really going to help us ask these questions and begin to unravel boundless mysteries. So some of you hopefully saw what we call first look. So these were the images that we gave to the public, to the world, to see what we're capable of. We're not yet starting that survey, but this is an example of that image. And so you can see here an area on the sky. This is about 25 square degrees, and it represents about 2 fields of view of the camera. It's not just 2 pictures, so we didn't just point to one spot and then point to another and put them together, but we took a few hundred images of each spot, combined them, and put them together. And what that does is it simulates for the public what we would be, say, halfway or more through the survey, and 5, 7 years out, the depth of the image. Because the more times we visit a spot, the fainter and fainter objects we see as we add them together. And just for kicks, the old game of how many M&Ms are in the jar, right? How many jelly beans are in the jar? If you can guess the number, you win the jar. Well, we can't give you the telescope, but if you had to guess, and I know we're on YouTube, so you can't tell me, but maybe is that possible?
Alan, we can absolutely tell you. So we can have anyone on YouTube who wants to chime in. This is the thing. And we're going to talk about this in the Q&A later, because images like this are literally my favorite thing in all of science. And I'm a biologist. So I'm a nature nerd. Vizcacha, I knew from when I was 5. Nice. And yet this is the greatest thing that there has ever been in the history of science. I would say there's 2,000 plus, because I always sometimes think there'd be a lot more. So I'm going to say 2,000. We've got 500. I've got 5,000. I've got a million. Million's pretty steep. So tell us more. What do we think? What's the real answer?
Yeah. So do you? Who said a million? What classroom or what?
Yeah, we've got Mrs. Hancock's class with a million.
Excellent. So that's the closest guess. And so we've zoomed in here a little bit, right? And you can see. Let's see if I go back. Okay. So you see here, right? As we zoom in a little bit on the right, you can see even more dots than in that first image. And every single thing you see almost in that image is another galaxy. So you can see the bright stars are kind of blue. I don't know if you can see my mouse up here. They tend to have this little cross on them, which is an artifact of the telescope, not something in space. But in that whole image, we're looking at about 10 million galaxies, which is astronomical, right? And I have to think about that every time I see this image, because as many images as I've seen over the years through telescopes, it truly is a new day. We really are revolutionizing our ability to study the universe. And most of these galaxies have never been observed before in this image. Here's another little area zoomed in. Again, almost everything you see in that picture is another galaxy. One of the reasons I like this picture is you can see the little dashed lines that are red, green, and blue throughout the image. Yeah. So those are actually asteroids moving. And when we were taking the images for this first look to share with the world, remember I said we took many, many images and combined them together. So sometimes we're using a red filter, then we might be using the green filter, then the blue filter. The camera only sees light. It doesn't see color. So we have to use filters to get those wavelengths of light, the colors. And so when an object is moving over time, you can see that it's not in the same place as everything else in that image. And you get that red, green, and blue because there were different filters on the camera at different points. And so when we were making this first look image to share with the world, we discovered about 2,000 previously unknown asteroids. And here's just a little video. I think I turned the sound on, but that's okay. So you can see these are more the raw images. They're not in color. Color gets assigned at the computer later because we know the wavelength of light reaching the camera.
So cool.
Yeah, you can see on the bottom there, by night 2, 1,355, night 3, there's fewer each night is because we're looking at the same spot and we discovered many of them the night before. So, and then this just shows you, sort of where we were pointing in the sky relative to the solar system. So you can imagine once we really surveying every night, Rubin is going to discover many, many. And so right now we have about 1.5 million known objects in the solar system. Most of those are asteroids, of course. Only 8 planets, some comets, you and I, some other things, right? So we got about 1.5 million. It's expected, based on predictions and what we saw in the first tests with the telescope in our first look images, that Rubin will push that number from about 1.5 million objects in the solar system to 6 million, right? So very quickly, sometime in that first year, we're going to far surpass discovering more asteroids than have been discovered in all of history to this point. So the best thing about this image, because we all love it, is that you can go online and you can explore it interactively. You can navigate at your own pace, zoom in, pan around, or you can take some tours that we've set up, and they're on the website, which is rubinobservatory.org. If you're sitting there with a smartphone, yes, I see it's online. There's a QR code as well. But if you want to go straight to the app for navigating this image, it's just skyviewer.app in your web browser. It's a great team of people I work with, the education and public outreach team that visioned and developed this app. And I can't say enough about how popular it is. And I watched it through the whole process up to first look, and I'm still playing with these images in the app. The other neat thing is that we have a feature called sonification. So we call it Sky Synth in there, and you can explore the image with sound, which is a really neat way to move around through the image. Okay, so let's talk a little about some of the science. So there's 4 big science areas that Rubin will be pursuing. When you have a really big telescope that's going to survey the sky relentlessly for 10 years, there's not a lot of science you can't do. However, these are the 4 main areas. So upper right, the solar system, we talked about that briefly. So this is going to show us millions of new asteroids and comets. And we will get a pretty complete census of the solar system in the first 3 years or so of the survey. Another big area is the Milky Way structure and formation. So Rubin is going to help us make the best map yet of the Milky Way, of our home galaxy. And remember, it really is the only galaxy we can see this kind of detail in, because the other ones are just too far away. So right now, there are around, say, 2 billion stars in catalogs, and Rubin's going to push that number to around 18 billion, give or take. So we're going to have a map of our Milky Way that's much, much more detailed, right, with stars than we've ever had before. The lower right, the changing sky, we touched on that, similar with the asteroids and supernova, things that move, change in brightness. We're going to be detecting quite a lot of these. Once we have a nice map of the sky in the first year, what we call a template, we will detect up to 10 million changes every single night in the sky. It's mind-boggling, right? And then the big one, right, the Vera Rubin's namesake, is dark matter and dark energy. So this telescope originally, way back, was called the Dark Matter Telescope. And it is designed in part to help us understand these concepts of dark matter and dark energy. I just said this, which is good because I feel like I'm going too slow for you, is that it's up to 10 million changes per night in the southern sky.
Wow.
And it's not just that it detects these, but we've got to tell somebody about them. And so what will happen is the exposure will happen, the camera will take a picture, and within 2 seconds, that picture will be read off of the sensor. It will go on a high-speed network to our US data facility in California, where the images will be processed and anything that changes. So it'll compare that image to the template, and it will send out what we call an alert. And those alerts go to brokers, which are software platforms that anyone in the world can subscribe to. And then if you're a subscriber, you tell that broker what types of alerts you're interested in: supernova, asteroids, comets, unknown things. So there'll be up to 10 million of these per night, right? And from the time that we take that picture till that alert goes out to the brokers is less than 2 minutes, right? So this is an incredible data accomplishment as well. And these nightly alerts are going to uncover rare events, and they're going to enable global follow-up. And what that means is professional observatories, amateur astronomers with equipment, anyone can follow up on these things and get the additional observations that will help us understand them. Because Rubin's primary mission is to be a survey, and it would take something very significant to have us stop that survey. Otherwise, we're going to make a discovery, we're going to report it, the alert will go out, and we will go on with the survey and count on the world, other telescopes at Noir Lab, where I work even, to help us do the follow-up. Okay, dark matter and dark energy. What is it? Don't ask me. I'm an amateur astronomer. But it's a mystery to all of us. 95% of the universe is unaccounted for right now. When astronomers look at the light, all the things they can see and study, it only accounts for about 5% of what we believe is there. And so again, the wide field of view and our ability to see very faint things is going to enable detailed exploration of these phenomena in a way that's never been done before. So again, right, we know of about 2 billion galaxies right now, similar to stars. We're going to push that to 20 billion galaxies over the 10-year survey. And by stepping back and looking at this map, if you will, of the cosmos, will help us understand dark matter, dark energy, when we can sort of step back from the forest and begin to see the larger patterns in the sky. So just backing up a little bit, the solar system, right? There's big questions. This isn't just, nerds like me that are interested in seeing how many and how small asteroids we can discover, but we're actually asking some bigger questions, right? How do planets form? How did life come to Earth? Those are the big questions. And the solar system is our backyard. It really is the only system we can study up close. And the idea is that every little thing that we can discover in astronomy, it's a puzzle piece, right? That we're turning over on the table. And as we begin to fill in those puzzle pieces, we start to see the bigger picture. And with the solar system, for example, the big picture is, where did life on Earth come from, for example? Hope that made sense. Okay, uncovering the unexpected. Lots of mysteries. Again, the questions we don't even know to ask yet. We might discover types of objects that we didn't know existed before. We might discover new transient phenomena, things that are changing in the sky that don't fit into existing classifications. And an example I can give of that is just a few years ago, we had never seen an interstellar object before. And now I'm sure have all heard of what we call 3I/Atlas. It was discovered by the Atlas telescope, and it's the third interstellar object. So that was a new class of object. Because of Rubin's fast survey of the sky and our wide field of view, we're expecting that it will be a game changer in discovering interstellar objects. And then probably some phenomena that challenge existing theories. And that's the exciting part of that, because every time we look in the sky in a new way, which Rubin is, we make discoveries that we would not have predicted. And now with Rubin, we are going to see more than we ever have before. So I mentioned that the legacy survey of space and time over the next decade, you're going to hear that a lot, but you will hear it referred to as the LSST, because again, everybody loves their acronyms. And we expect about 38 billion objects in the catalogs from Rubin at the end of that survey. And you can see there 20 billion galaxies, 17 billion stars, around 10 million supernova, and about 6 million solar system objects, just as examples. And that in total is about 4 to 5 times as many objects as there are people on Earth.
Hmm.
It is just revolutionary in scale. So it's a lot of data, right? And it is going to be the first time that this much astronomical data is available to so many people. And one of the exciting things is that we're working to provide this data to people from all over the world and all backgrounds to participate. And if you're in a classroom, right, or you're home at night, the way that you can do it, the way that I'm doing it as an amateur astronomer, is through what we call citizen science, volunteer science. And we've partnered with Zooniverse. I'm sure that many of you have heard of Zooniverse, to put projects on Rubin. And right now, we haven't started the survey yet. That'll happen sometime very, very early in 2026. But we are on the sky. We are taking pictures. We're getting everything ready. We're optimizing the images so that they're as good as possible. And we're optimizing the efficiency of the system so that we're moving through the sky as quickly as possible, as efficient as possible. And because we're collecting data, we are also practicing on our citizen science projects. So you can see right there, there's zooniverse.org/Rubin. That link will persist during the survey, and you will see all the active projects. There are 2 right now. One of them is called Rubin Comet Catchers, and you can help us look for comets in some of the early data. I looked last week, and we had already had over 3 million classifications on that project. And a classification is when a volunteer, like you or me, says what they think an image is. So it's been very, very popular. And then just last week, we started a new project called Rubin Difference Detectives. And this one is helping us tune up the alert system that I mentioned so that we don't send out alerts on things that are not real. And what this project does is it's volunteers looking at images and saying, hey, yes, that's a real thing, or no, that's not. And that helps the machines know when they're right. Okay, I'm talking 100 miles an hour, but really get some questions here. So one of my favorite quotes from Vera Rubin was, "Don't shoot for the stars. We already know what's there. Shoot for the space in between, because that's where the real mystery lies." And that is the overarching, to me, mission of Rubin Observatory, is to look out there and look at the space between the stars and start to unravel the mystery of the universe. And, of course, there's the social media links and the website and all of that. There's my email address, but if you don't have time to copy it down, Jesse certainly knows how to get a hold of me. And I absolutely welcome anyone out there contacting us, asking questions. For the teachers out there, we have many what we call investigations that are on our website. And so these are ways to introduce astronomical concepts in the classroom. There are 2-hour lessons. Everything you need is online. It's all free. There's teacher guides, resources, evaluations. We maintain teacher communities of practice around these investigations. So it's a lot of fun. I can't tell you, it's a dream job for me. And so.
Well, Alan, your passion and the fact that it is a dream job shines through in everything that you've been sharing with us over the last 25 minutes. If you want to come out of screen share so you can see me again, have a bit of a conversation, we'd love to dive in with questions. We already have more than we could take during a broadcast. Man, a professional detachment just out the window. I love this tool so much. I love that it's so open source. I love that we're already highlighting some really cool things and that there's so many ways for classrooms and people of all stripes to get involved. It's really, really exciting. So I don't want to talk myself too much. I want to dive in with questions. You talked about the 6 filters. What are the 6 filters? How are we doing this? Can you explain a little bit more?
Yeah, sure. So I will say that they also are very, very large. When you have the largest camera in the world, you tend to build the largest filters in the world. And so Rubin Observatory is studying the sky in optical wavelengths. So just like you and I see. So we're not looking, at X-rays or ultraviolet light, for example, right? Which other observatories do. So these 6 filters cover the part of the electromagnetic spectrum that we can see, plus a little bit more. So it goes from the kind of the edge of ultraviolet to the near infrared. And those filters are pretty wide, but we divide that up into 6 sections, and it goes from there through all the colors of the rainbow. So the camera just collects light, right? It's not seeing red or seeing green. So what we do is we put a filter on, call it the red filter, and then we know that on those exposures, the wavelengths of light reaching the sensor were those red wavelengths. And then we can assign the color at the computer later. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I'm just, my quick follow-up is the way you're describing it, and this seems outlandish to me, is it literally like a big thing that comes in front of the camera for you? Really?
Yeah. So the camera is about the size of a small SUV.
Yeah.
And soon, hopefully in the next year, we'll actually have a 3D model on the website that you can play around with and things like that. And so if you imagine it's a cylinder and with the lens at the front, and then around that cylinder, there are filters. And there's one in front of the camera, of course. And there is inside of the camera, a big filter exchanger that comes down, grabs the filter, picks it up, moves it, puts it into the empty slot, grabs another one, rotates around, and drops the filter in front. Yeah.
See, I love in science when there's things that are like way beyond my ability to understand, and then there's other things that are just like giant versions of stuff we've had forever, like when I was a kid. That is so fun.
It is massive to see. Yeah.
So this camera, this amazing device, how long did it take to make, and how much did it cost?
So I actually don't know how much it cost. A lot. What my dad always used to say: if you have to ask how much it cost, you can't afford it.
Yeah.
But I think, if you go back to when this stuff was first visioned, it was really 2 decades in the making, if you will, from the back of the napkin drawings to completion. The actual period of construction was about a decade, I think, of the observatory. But yeah.
Got a perfect follow-up on this, which is, so you've talked about this a lot throughout the podcast, but just to be very clear, it's going to be fully operational early 2026, and we're getting our first images right now. Like, this is a brand new device.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's fully operational now. So we're on Sky, we're collecting good stuff, and we've proven that it's capable of doing the science for 10 years. So the phase we're in now, we call the early optimization phase. And we're doing 2 main things. We're making sure that the image quality is absolutely as good as we can get it. And that means being able to correct for the atmosphere when it's not steady, being sure that the atmosphere inside the telescope dome is as steady as possible. It's a big dome, for example. And then it also means that, again, that we're efficient, so that the software is moving the telescope in the best ways possible, and that, of the time that we can observe, that we're getting as much done during that. So it's sort of the combination of the efficiency of the system with the quality of the images, and we know it's capable of it. But once the survey starts, we don't want to stop for 10 years, and so we're essentially dialing everything in right now.
Cool. Oh, yeah. What an exciting time to be involved in a scientific project. Okay, we had a question about how many people are involved and where are they from? So you've had the chance to go down and visit this in person. You're talking about it here live back in the US. Where are the scientists from every country? What's the deal?
Yeah. Oh gosh, I wish I had that at my fingertips, because I've seen the information. So there are individuals from around, I think, 29 or 30 countries involved. Yeah, of course, most of those are in the US and in Chile. But we have very strong partnerships in many other countries in the United Kingdom, right? France, England, in South America, in Mexico, all over the world. We have collaborators. In the construction project, I believe there were about a couple thousand people over the decade of construction who were significantly involved in the building of the observatory, meaning that they spent at least a couple of years on the project. So right now we're a staff, operationally, we're a staff of a few hundred people, but the science community, if you will, is about, I think, around 8,000 people worldwide. And even though they're not directly like project members, if you will, they are certainly enabling everything, right? They're helping with the science, they're advising us, and these are the people that we're building the house for, if you will. So it's absolutely I said this before, it's a dream come true for me to be involved in something like this. Again, as an amateur guy that grew up as an amateur astronomer,
yep.
I just look around every day and I look at these like pictures in my office and I probably should get something of Vera Rubin up in here.
We're going to harp on the feelings about pictures in just a second, but I want to do a niche question related to this, because every other telescope we've ever featured in our history, when there is an international team, because there always is a team of people from all around the planet, a lot of it is like, who gets to use it at any given time. Like, oh, the team from Canada put in 5% of the money, so they get 5% of the time. They choose what to look at any given day. With Rubin, it's doing the same survey all the time. So there's not going to be like, oh, okay, it's so-and-so's spot. So for an individual scientific team, is it just that they're focusing in on a niche part of the data, or how does that actually look?
Yeah, exactly. So you're exactly right, right? Most observatories operate on what we call time allocation. People they get grants to fund their work, they put in proposals, and then if they're lucky, they get selected for time on a telescope, and they hope it's clear at night. So with Rubin, it's going to be 10 years of data taking. And that data is going to be on what we call the Rubin Science Platform. And that is freely available to all US scientists that are data rights holders, which is pretty much all US scientists, Chilean scientists, as the telescope is in Chile, and then what we call other data rights holders. And so those are scientists who are doing something for the project, and in return, they're given data rights. So again, primarily US and Chilean astronomers who have data rights from other countries. After 2 years, the data is no longer proprietary. So in that case, any scientist could work with it. And then yes, if you were somebody that was studying supernova, for example, you would go after that aspect of the data. It's very economical, I think, as well, right? Because the faculty or scientists are not having to go get grants, small grants to do their work. They have access to the data. Their students have access to the data.
Again, it's hard to even express to our audience tuning in today, like how revolutionary the idea of making data that open to everybody is.
Right.
You highlighted Zooniverse, which is the greatest citizen science tool of all time. So if people want to tune in and highlight some of the projects there, more will be coming, as you mentioned, which is really exciting. But just no instrument in the world, no collaboration is as open as this that I've ever run across in 10 years of doing this.
Yeah, that's my feeling too, and I don't have the experience that you do, broadly looking at these, but I've heard that this is really the first time this much astronomical data will be available.
Yeah. So I keep harping on this idea of the feeling that you get when you look at it. And I've got to say, like when I look at a deep field like that original image that you highlighted so in depth, like I don't even know, like it feels like my heart falls, which sounds like a dark thing, but it's such a like, it's so magnificent. It's to really understand that image and to look at it is to just have your whole perspective of the world and science and life around you change. And I'm so curious, as someone who gets to live and breathe this stuff, like how do you feel when you see things like that, those first images come through? Because it must be even more deep because you get the chance to highlight it to everybody.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly that. I have for a decade before I came to Rubin worked in outreach astronomy. At a program at the University of Arizona where we had a lot of fantastic astrophotography as part of the program by world famous astrophotographers. And so I wouldn't say I was jaded, right? But how many galaxy images have I seen? And then when I saw the pictures from Rubin, I mean, to this day, I still can go into Skyviewer and just start looking around and seeing little things. And go, oh, I wonder what that is. Oh, I wonder what this is, right? And the exciting thing is most of it is undiscovered and unstudied. So it is like, it's like my birthday every day. I hope those images.
So skyviewer.app, rubinobservatory.org. If you want to see those first look images, and we've put all these in the chat, we'll highlight them to all the registered classes so you can take a look. I mean, I literally I had 40 minutes between the broadcast, between my last one and this one. And I was just going through these and scanning them and getting them bigger. Like that's all I want to do when I start looking at these. So I hope as a student audience, you feel the same way. They really are a form of magic. Alan, time flies and you're having fun. We're nearing the end of the broadcast. And so I just want to leave it with, is there a final message about this tool, the future of its explorations, anything that you want to leave us with before we say farewell?
That's a good question. I should have prepared for that. I think, for me, the most exciting thing again is those unknown unknowns, right? What are we going to discover that we didn't even know to ask yet? And so, I would say to all the students out there that is something to be excited about. And keep watching Rubin, and you're of the perfect age because we're going to be collecting data for 10 years. And if you're interested in this stuff, you're going to be the ones that are going to be working with the data from the telescope for the next 2-3 decades and making those discoveries and answering the questions that we didn't know yet. So
yeah. What a beautiful message, and what a cool idea that there's so much that we don't even know. You talked about 95% of the universe we don't really understand, which is such a crazy admission of ignorance for the world scientific community, but that's what science is all about. And I mean, as you said too, for kids these days, like when I grew up, we didn't have the James Webb Space Telescope. We didn't have the Rubin Observatory. We didn't have tests looking for exoplanets. We didn't have all these tools at our fingertips, and the again open source release of the data where everyone could look at that. You can literally go and look at a Mars rover on Mars right now. You can check that out. Like the United States' science establishment and departments do such an incredible job of highlighting this. And so I'm blown away. Professional detachment is gone, as I said, and it's just such a pleasure to have you on. I hope to have you back on many times to feature the Rubin story. It's been a real pleasure.
Yeah, well, we'll be here for 10 years.
So. Cool. Hopefully we will be too. We're trying. It's been 11 years so far at Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. It's always fun in science communication. But for our audience, we'll say farewell from there. Thank you so much for joining. And Alan, have a wonderful rest of your day.
Yeah, thank you. You too.